Alright guys, it's sprinkling out, but I wanted to, while I was up here, show you what happens when you plant plants in very rocky clay soil where there are minerals and nutrients, but it's just really very rocky and there's no topsoil. So this is an example of some phlox I started from seed, and I planted out once they got the appropriate size. Okay. Can you see this? Because, do you see the soil? Because this ground is so rocky, let me show you another one. Because the ground is so rocky, what happens is the roots get into the ground, and while they're being fed and getting the appropriate water and all that, those root balls are not able to really spread, because no matter which direction they go, they're going to run into rock. That is why it's very important, if you've got rocky clay soil, to build up your soil in some way. And the way we're trying to do that, you sit down here, is by putting as much organic matter on our field as possible. Right now it's hay and wood chips and sawdust, and we're going to continue this, covering this whole field with sawdust. And on top of that, we'll put in nitrogen sources like, some cover crop, and also we will probably do some alfalfa maybe over the fall. And just continue this, and eventually, and it's going to take some years, and we realize this, it's going to take some years, but eventually all of this organic matter we're putting on now will start to break down and become hopefully a nice loamy topsoil.
If you're looking for a way to upcycle some waste material, contact your local sawmills. A lot of times sawmills will have excess waste. I work at Woody Forest Products, and this is just some of the waste product that we have that myself and my beautiful wife have been recycling into our gardening. Right here, you see a massive mound of partially decomposed sawdust. This is stuff that comes down our feed chute for our boiler, and it can't be really recycled into it. It's coming across the screens. It's a little bit too heavy for the, too large for the screens to allow to fall through. So it ends up feeding outside, and we pile it up, and it sits here and decomposes. I'll show you a quick little bit of what this stuff's been here so long that it's already beginning to break down into really good humus. You can see I can squeeze it into a handful. Still some chips in here. Further down you go, the more broken down it is. And this is not an uncommon byproduct for sawmills, lumber yards to generate, especially if they're running a sawdust boiler. So as you can see, the further back we go in this pile, the more broken down it is. This is just dry on the surface, but you see the size of the chips and the color begins to change. The temperature, I know you can't feel it, but this down in here is about twice the outside temperature. And look, just a few inches down, we're encountering mycelium and a lot of decomposition. This stuff is beautiful for mulch, to hold moisture in your ground and to break down to feed your plants. If you look at that, that's just a chunk of sawdust that's just shot through with mycelium, which allows this to break down. It's all decomposing, which is food for your plants. On the log yard side of it, our log yard debarks their logs, and right beside our sawdust pile, I'm standing in a mountain of free wood bark, which also makes great mulch. Additionally, you can lay out sections like this anywhere that you want a pathway that helps to fight the weeds. It's beautiful, and it's honestly really comfortable to walk on. It's just a little tip from us to you. Happy hunting. Have a good time. Garden your asses off. See ya.
The reason we went ahead and still planted is because, well, for one, we have the space available and we needed a place to put all these tomatoes. For two, every time we dig and put something in the ground, we're digging out rocks. Also, when these plants start to die off for the year, we'll cut off or pull out any diseased tomato plants. But what we will do is we will just kind of push them down and cover them. So those little pockets that the roots are making are going to allow more nutrients and more good soil to seep down and help work on all this clay. Also, we put compost in every hole that we planted a tomato in. So therefore, that's already helping little pockets of the soil become better. So that's really what this is going to be about for the next several years. We might not have the biggest, bushiest, healthiest plants right off. Each year it's going to get better. I'm really spoiled. Where I gardened before I moved to this area of West Virginia, I was right on the river in Huntington, West Virginia, which is a valley. I was right up against the Ohio. There was a flood wall that was a hill, like it's one you could walk up. It wasn't a stone one. It was like a big old tall hill, man-made. And the river was right on the other side. So even though we had that clay soil, there wasn't very much rock. There was a bunch of sand. It was a more sandy type clay, I guess you would say, than it is here. But there was also that river mud mixed in with it, just from where it used to literally be the banks of the Ohio before people started building there. So I got kind of spoiled and was able to put anything in the ground and it would really just flourish. And here I'm having to work at it more, and there is a learning curve, but I'm still able to produce beautiful plants. Absolutely beautiful plants. And I think that I have a morning glory growing on one of my tomatoes that I need to go pluck. I just can't get them to be big. I can grow healthy plants, I just can't get them to be big. Like these tomatoes, I've been compost teeing them, so they're starting to take off. I should have been doing it earlier in the season, but life got busy and I didn't get around to it as regularly as I should have. But the last few weeks I've been doing it regularly and they're all starting to take off, and we're going to have nice big beautiful bushy plants to get some fall tomatoes. So that's awesome. Do you hear that thunder? It's literally sprinkling on me right now. But I kind of just wanted to show you what happens to these plants whenever really your ground is full of rock. There are a few ways you can build it up. We're taking the slower route because we have access to the materials to do it for little to no cost. You can also build beds. You can build beds on top. You can cart in your soil. I personally can't afford to do that right now, so instead of carting the soil in, we're going to build it up slowly. And I feel like in the long run, it's going to be better for the land, and we won't have to keep carting in, you know, all the compost all the time. Yes, we're making compost. We do compost tea. All right, I'm rambling. I'm going to end this clip for now. Hopefully some of that's usable.